Hey everyone, welcome to the Colorado Springs Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I am super excited to speak with our guest, Miller McSwain. Miller bought a property with Leah not too long ago, and he has a really interesting story of what he plans to do with the property. And then I think that his plan for investing is really exciting. So Miller, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Would you mind giving everyone just a bit of your background and we can kind of go from there?
Yep. So me and my wife are very new to real estate. We both just graduated from college, so fresh to real estate, fresh to the working world, fresh to a lot of things. Just got married as well, so fresh to that.
Hey, congrats.
Yeah, thank you. So we just moved here from Tennessee. That's where I went to school, and she went to school around there as well. And so we started looking for a house while we were in school, and it kind of started, I guess. My parents have a couple of properties in Mississippi, which is where I grew up. And so I'd always kind of been around it. And I remember my parents saying that whenever I went to college, they would buy me a duplex. And anyway, that didn't happen. I had to buy this myself, unfortunately. But but that seed was planted, from a pretty young age. And in high school, I had this teacher who actually, for our economics class, he didn't teach us economics. He just taught us personal finance, which I think that was much better. Honestly, that's served me pretty well so far. So all you teachers out there, it's a pretty good idea. So he just showed us Dave Ramsey videos, and I was watching those during class and started picking up books about it in high school and got into mutual funds, index funds, all that kind of stuff. But I remember between freshman and sophomore year of college, I started thinking about the real estate thing again, because I just remembered what my parents had said, 10 years ago. And I think I looked up, I don't know, is real estate a good investment or something? And a Bigger Pockets episode came up on YouTube. And so I just started diving into that. And then I had 4 long years of waiting to invest, so I got to do a lot of research, but I was just itching to get into the game. And eventually, it was senior year. And so me and my fiance at the time, we're trying to figure out where we wanted to move. And we ended up landing on Colorado Springs. We kind of had the whole map of the US opened up to us, and we just started looking around, and we figured we'd find where we want to live and then find the jobs there and see if real estate's good there. So we ended up deciding that we wanted to move to Colorado. And then we picked the Springs just based off of data. I think I sorted most of the cities on rent to price ratio, and cut certain ones out just because the purchase price was too high. So Denver was cut out, and a lot of places were cut out. But at the time, the Springs was a good purchase price, and the rent to price was good. So we took a trip out here, which I would advise as well, and checked the city out. It's beautiful nearby. There's parking at Walmart. You don't have to do street parking everywhere you go, and so all that kind of stuff was nice. So so we ended up landing on the Springs and getting in touch with Envision, and we started looking. So I got in touch with Jenny, got in touch with Leah, and we started our search process.
Yeah, I certainly appreciated the level of detail that you put into your process and kind of your analysis and everything. That was kind of fun to work through, I think. So yeah, can you tell everyone a little bit about how your search process, I guess once you guys were ready to pull the trigger, tell everyone a little bit about how that went, because that was during the time that everything was very, very crazy. So I think that's a good story to hear.
Yeah. So we actually kind of started the process pretty early on because we had time. So I think we started talking with you and Bill Rodriguez for lending in January of 2022, even though we didn't graduate until May. But so the process was started, but we didn't really start looking until around March, I think. And kind of the holdup there, Bill said that he basically wouldn't be able to get us pre-approved until we had offer letters. And there's a story behind that too. But yeah, so we really started looking in March with Leah, as far as actually looking virtually at properties. So all the properties that we were interested in, we didn't come to see in person. We were remote for that. So that was a process. And it was something that I was comfortable with. And I think my fiance at the time was comfortable with too. But I remember after we did end up closing, I told my family that, we bought a house. And my stepdad was like, "What? Son, you didn't go look at it?" I was like, "No." He's like, "You got to feel if it's the right place." So, but whatever. The numbers looked good and all that. So I didn't mind that. But
Yeah. Did you tell him that Leah is like an expert FaceTimer?
yeah, no, I did. I was like, we have a great agent, and he's like, well, they're looking out for themselves. I'm like, no, Leah doesn't do that.
Oh, she will tell you if something is junk. Like
Oh
she's
yeah,
very good about that. Yep.
yeah. So she did one of the properties that she looked at for us. She went in and then she texted me afterwards, and she's like, it smells like cat pee and whatever. So no, she wasn't just trying to sell us anything,
Yeah.
But yeah, so we started looking with Leah, and I had search, save searches set up on like Redfin or through you guys' portal and all that kind of stuff. And so whenever I first met Leah, I told her, I was like, yeah, you don't really have to worry about finding the property. Like, we'll find it. We just need you to go tour it and do all this. I figured I'd lighten her load as much as possible. And lo and behold, we missed something. And she sends me a message. She's like, hey, did you see this one? And I was like, no, because I have my search filter set to like 1970 and greater, and this was like 1968 or something.
Okay.
And so I was like, wow, that actually like checks all of our boxes. And so we wouldn't have found it if Leah hadn't done what I told her not to do. I told her not to look for us. So yeah, above and beyond.
Yep. She can't stop working. That's kind of her thing, right?
Yeah, well, that's good for us. So.
Yep. So tell us a little bit about the house itself.
So yes, what we ended up getting is a 5-bed, 3-bath in the Springs. It's an 80910, and it's the main level is 3 beds, 2 bath, and the bottom is 2 beds, 1 bath. So one of our criteria, my fiance didn't want to have like a ton of interaction with the tenants. She wanted it to be a pretty separate kind of house hack, which is what we're doing. We're house hacking.
Yeah.
And so this had a good setup. We told Leah that we wanted there to be easy access to the basement because we planned on living in the basement, and easy access to it from a separate entrance from the garage, something like that. And in this case, it ended up being you enter through the garage, and then whenever you enter the house, the stairs are right there to go downstairs. And the main level kitchen was right there too, but we were able to put a door up to separate those parts of the house.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the top's a 3-2, bottom's a 2-1. Upstairs has the living room, kitchen. One of the beds has a private bath, and then 2 of the bedrooms share a bath. So as far as house hacking goes, there's 2 tenants that share a bathroom. So we're doing rent by room. 2 tenants share a bathroom, and one of them has their own bathroom.
Great. Yeah. How are you, I guess, dividing up rent since, one room is kind of superior to the other 2? How are you guys doing that?
So we kind of maybe took a bad approach in the beginning. We listed all the rooms like pretty high, which, I had some data points for what the rooms should rent for, but I was like, well, I don't know. We'll just list them like pretty high and see what happens. So originally we had the private bath listed for 1,000, the private bathroom.
Okay.
Bathroom. And anyway, we didn't get any bites.
It's a little steep. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just figured we'd try it. And,
Yep.
And then we had I don't remember, the shared rooms listed at something a little bit lower. And I just slowly backed it off for like 2 months. And I was really kind of worried throughout this whole process. Like, oh man, like we're not renting. But eventually we found this sweet spot where like we got just like tons of, inquiries like immediately. So the demand is there.
Yeah.
We're just way too high. But what we ended up renting them for, we just filled our last vacancy. So they're all rented now. And the bedroom with the private bath is $800 a month. And so with all these rooms, utilities we're paying for, internet we're paying for. We're providing like shared supplies. So trash bags, anything that the tenants would bicker about, So
Yeah.
I mean, I just graduated college and I was in the same sort of situation. So it's pretty fresh, having to deal with roommates. So yeah, the trash bags, the dishwashing fluid, even for the shared bath, we provide toilet paper. That's that's not just like single ply.
Yeah. It's so funny that you say that. I remember in college, like, no, I just bought the toilet paper. No, it's your turn to buy the toilet paper. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was easy enough whenever I lived with friends, but I graduated like a semester later than everyone else. So the last year I lived with random people, and then it was a little bit tougher, to deal with all that. So yes. So the other 2 rooms, one of them is actually listed or rented for $800, which is the same as the private, and the other one is at $700.
Okay.
But yeah, how we got that other $800, that other shared room to be $800 though, networking came through for us in an unexpected way. whenever me and Elijah, my fiance, when we were looking for a house, I had keyword alert set up on Bigger Pockets, and I had Colorado Springs set up as one of them. And anyway, this guy in a similar situation to me, like, 23 engineer, or, about to graduate and be an engineer, made a post on there about wanting to house hack in the Springs. And I, replied and whatever. And anyway, so we were back and forth talking for 3 months just about how it was going, our search and stuff. And he ended up having some car trouble and had to buy a new car. So he didn't have the funds to purchase his house anymore. So he messaged me. I was like, "Hey, do you still have that room to rent?" So he was our first tenant, but we didn't really know what rents would be then. So I was kind of like, I don't know, 800.
Yeah.
And so it looks like that might've been like $50 too high. But yeah,
Well,
so that's how we got all this.
He's getting a free education from you, so I think that's fair.
Yeah. No, and that is nice. I've showed him like a lot of how we're handling things. So yeah, that is definitely true. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the purchase process. So, Leah found this house. What was the competition like? Tell me a little bit about some of the features of your offer.
Yeah. So there was competition on this one, although not as much as some of the other ones that we looked at. So we actually ended up getting under contract super quick. I think it was like from when we started looking to being under contract was like a week and a half or something like crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, and I was talking to Chris about that the other day, and he's like, "Yeah, that was luck." I was like, "Yeah, maybe some of that was luck, but Leah did good too." So, but yeah, like some of the houses that we looked at, they were like, this was in April, so this was like the height.
Yeah.
Or what I would consider the height anyway. It felt like it. And yeah, so some of them had like 15 offers, 20 offers, and we just weren't anywhere near where we should have been. But on this one, we were pre-approved for 460, and we offered, I think, like 425, which was list. I think we offered that at first. And we had one other buyer, just like single family home buyer, competing with us. And then the other person that was competing with us, I think Leah said it was like a rent to own like company.
Okay.
That they would come in. I'd never heard of this model, but she said this company would like come in and buy the house. And then, I guess once it was stabilized and, whatever, once those tenants were in there, then they would buy it like shortly after. So it wasn't like a lease option or whatever, like the long term, like type thing. They would like turn it around pretty quick. But I think it was kind of like an all cash scenario. I think that's what was beneficial about it. When this company would come in, it was like all cash.
Gotcha.
And then they would rent until they would buy. So,
probably they had a house to sell on the other end or something like that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So so that was our competition. And as far as what was in the offer letter, I remember we did have a limited inspection contingency. So we were allowed to back out if something were to come up that we didn't like, but we pretty much said that we wouldn't nickel and dime the seller, for every little thing, which turns out there wasn't much anyway. But we did that. The other thing that was really beneficial, I think I remember the seller saying that they really liked this, was the like 15-day close that Bill was able to get for us.
Yeah.
So that was a big win. I think that's why they ended up not going with that company that I was talking about. Theirs was a longer, typical kind of close.
Okay.
But yeah, so we ended up offering like 425 or whatever. And then, Leah saw what the competition was, and then we ended up bumping it up to 460 because the buyers or the sellers came back and said that we need to come up on purchase price. And Leah was actually like pretty calm about it. So me and my fiance were like, or I told my fiance, I was like, okay, maybe we actually need to offer like 480 and just like do the appraisal gap and stuff. and Leah was like, no, we're good at 460. We're good at 460. And I was like, but like, what if we do miss it? She's like, no, I'm confident like we'll get it. So yeah. She knows what she's talking about. So
yeah, she's very good at, getting information and not letting people overpay for things. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's great. So how did the inspection go? You mentioned that there wasn't much on it.
Yeah. Yeah, there wasn't really any issues. I remember the only like things that were like labeled as major. There wasn't a rail going down the basement stairs, like a handrail, which was totally fine. For now. And there wasn't a like attic latch, like in the garage where you go into the attic. There wasn't a latch there, which it said like as a fire hazard. But other than that, everything else was like, there's some outlets that don't work. The sheetrock needs to be patched here. So there was nothing out of the ordinary. Or actually, the only thing, the dishwasher didn't work. That was the other thing. But the sellers ended up saying, "Oh yeah, we found out about that. We'll fix it. We already ordered the part, so they
Oh,
fixed it before
great.
we even took possession." Yeah.
That's great. So I'm seeing maybe $1,000 for all
Yeah.
this stuff. That's great.
Yeah. So it was nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. So did the house appraise for the 460?
Oh yeah, that was the best
Yeah.
call I could have gotten. Whenever Bill
Yeah.
called me, he was like, "The house price for 460." I was like, "Woo! All right," because actually we were planning on if we did end up having to use an appraisal gap, we were going to use our wedding funds for it, and
Oh my goodness.
and
Yeah.
because and again, like I think my wife's more aggressive than I am, so she was like, "It's okay, like we'll have time to make it back once we start our jobs, after college." I was like, "No, like we're not going to try to buy this house. Like, what if we have to use our our wedding funds?" And she's like, "Just buy it." So yeah. Anyway, it worked out. So yeah, she's wise.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. That's dedication right there. If you're willing to, dip into your wedding pot for that. So.
Oh yeah, and so she's been interested in real estate too. I told my story, but yeah, on our first date, she mentioned real estate. So it's she's always been on board for that, thankfully. So
That's how you knew, that's how you knew she was the
that's what
winner
I
on
tell
that.
her. Yeah, that's when I knew she was the one. Yeah.
Yep. That's great. So yeah, let's dig into the lending. So you worked with Bill, and
Yep.
I know you guys had a bit of a interesting situation in the fact that you were fresh out of school and you hadn't started your job. So how was he able to bridge the gap to make it work?
Yeah, so this was something. Thankfully, we started talking to him early so that we could figure out, even if we would be able to, be eligible for lending. Because I mean, kind of the worst case scenario, which I mean, it's not an awful scenario, but worst case, we would have had to move to Colorado Springs for our jobs, and then rent a place for a month or two or whatever. Once we have these jobs, and that we can provide proof of employment and stuff to Bill.
Mm-hmm.
But it would just be this kind of like weird limbo thing where we move all of our stuff into this house for a month or two, and then we close on something a month or two later and have to move again and all of that.
Yeah.
So we tried to get it hammered out with him before to allow us to buy a place before we even move out. And so so I started talking with him early, and basically what he said was, so at the time we were both in college, and he said once we get an offer letter from the company that we're going to work for, that we can start on the process. And so kind of how that ended up working mechanically or like tangibly, he said that if we were to use a rate lock, which we did, I think we did like a 90-day rate lock, and there was a fee with that. It was like $2,000, I think, for the 90-day one. I think there were some other options too. So the rate lock basically just locked our interest rate for a certain period, which worked out in our favor. But basically, the purpose of the rate lock wasn't to lock our rate. It was really just to at some point Bill offloads our loan to someone else, and so he said if he has 90 days, if we close April 15th, then we have maybe 60 to 90 days left. As long as we start our jobs within that 60 to 90-day period, then we'll get our pay stubs. We can give that to him, and once he has those pay stubs, then he can offload the loan. So that 90-day window basically just gave him more time to hold on to the loan himself until we gave him our pay stubs, and then he could get rid of it. So so that was kind of his solution. And but yeah, luckily we locked the rate, because I think we locked to like 4.8. And then whenever he called me about the appraisal, he's like, "Yeah, man, and you won't believe it. We're like, the interest rates right now are like 5.3 or something." I was like, "No way!" So yeah, it worked out in our favor. Yeah,
I remember you texting me, like what my thoughts were on the rate, and I'm like, I said I would just lock it now. Like, I don't see things, at that point in time, I don't see things going down or stabilizing anytime soon. So
yeah. And actually, with this rate lock program, I forget the exact details, but there was a cap on how much it could go in a certain direction. And the thing was, if interest rates were to end up going down, then my interest rate would float down with it. So it was capped at whatever we locked it at, but it couldn't go up, but it could go down. So it basically only works in our favor, except for the $2,000 fee.
I think that's well worth the insurance of having that flexibility.
Oh yeah, it definitely was in our case.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that this situation, I mean, just highlights the fact that just talk to your lender, be upfront with your lender, start early, have those conversations, get all your ducks in a row. And most of the time they can figure out a way to make it work, to get mostly of everything that you wanted. So I think that's a very good example of why that is so important.
Yeah, and it was good just working with Bill because you guys work with him so often.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there were situations where we were trying to get our pre-approval letter by a certain point, and Leah's like, "Oh, I'll just text Bill real quick," like
Yeah.
because you guys are so close, it made all that a lot easier. So
Yeah, exactly. So that's great. So did you guys have to do anything to outfit the house? I know you mentioned a door to get the private quarters. And you guys have a bit of an interesting laundry situation. So do you have any tips for people, what you've learned?
yes, so yeah, like I mentioned earlier, in order to separate the units, we did end up putting a door upstairs on the main level off the kitchen. And we put an electronic lock on that, which we actually put on everywhere upstairs. All the bedroom doors have electronic locks. The front door has an electronic lock. So the main reason we put that electronic lock on that kitchen door, the laundry is in the basement, which is where me and my wife live. And like I said, we wanted, minimal interaction with the tenants. So we're trying to come up with ways to, allow the tenants to come downstairs. One option would be like, putting a wall somewhere downstairs to where they don't have access to our bedroom and whatever. But anyway, all that kind of stuff we didn't really want to do. So we ended up just putting this electronic lock upstairs, and each tenant has picked a 3-hour laundry window that occurs every month. So Thursday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And their door pin that they use to get into their doors, to their bedrooms, or to their, into the house from the front door, that pin will allow them downstairs just during those 3 hours. So, we have it in our calendar, and it'll pop up on mine and my wife's phone. Okay, tenant 3 may be coming down here in these 3 hours. So we know they'll be down there at that time. And so it was a cheap solution, and a pretty temporary solution, which is good because after we move out, we'll probably just unlock that door and have it open to everybody. So, it works for us while we're there, and tenants haven't really seemed to mind or anything like that. So,
yeah, I mean, I think that's a really creative solution. Like you said, not a lot of upfront, capital to make that work, and you guys have your privacy. And yeah, I think that's a really smart way of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, $80, for a lock. And that was about it. But
yeah, I think that's manageable, right?
yeah. So and it was actually on sale. So there we go.
There you go. Yeah. So is your plan for this property just to do just a true house hack at that, 1 year and 1 day mark? You guys are looking for another property and going to move out and rent the 2 rooms in the basement, or like what are your long-term plans for this home?
Yeah. For the most part, yes. It looks like 12 months from about now is when we will have saved up enough to where we're comfortable to purchase another house. So that would put us at like the 14-month mark, I think. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe there would be an opportunity to like HELOC at our 12-month mark to get the remaining funds that we would need. But yeah, so for the most part, we plan on house hacking 1 a year. And it looks like our funds will allow for that. And as far as what we'll do in the basement, whenever we leave, I think we'll actually, so the 3 rooms upstairs are unfurnished. So we have all the shared areas furnished. So, we have pots and pans, all that kind of stuff in the kitchen, the coffee maker, and we have, the TV in the living room, the couch, all that, but they furnish their own rooms. But I think when we move out, I think we're actually going to have to furnish these bedrooms down here, because we're going to have to put that rail on the stairs before we leave. And I don't think you can fit furniture down. Like it's a fairly narrow staircase.
Yeah.
So
that is forward thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to solve everything ahead of time. So we'll probably have to furnish these. And, even if you could fit furniture down, that staircase would get so beaten up with people they're on 6-month leases and then month to month. So potentially every 6 months, having somebody bring a new bed and a new TV and a new desk and all that. So so I think down here will be fully furnished. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess you could probably charge a little bit more to recoup, the initial outlay for that. So
yeah. I think we'll try to do that. I did go to one of the websites that we list at. I think it was like roomies.com. And I kind of ran like a quick study because you can filter like furnished and unfurnished. And I kind of like averaged out the rates for each of those. And interestingly, based on, the 30 listings that were on there, having a furnished room didn't increase the rate on
Oh,
average.
interesting.
It may not play out like that, in practice.
Yeah.
But I don't know, what I'll be curious to see is how it affects demand, whether there'll be more people wanting a furnished room, because then they don't have to deal with furniture. Or, if somebody does have furniture, they're not going to consider a furnished room because then they have to throw their furniture away or put it in storage or something. So that'll be
Right.
interesting to see. Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to hear an update on that once you guys get to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be back. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so let's see. So we've talked about, this house. What is your overall investment plan now that you have your first one under your belt? Like, negative, graduation, which is just phenomenal in my opinion.
Yeah.
You are starting when I wish that I did start. So, what are you guys' long-term plans for this?
So we plan on house hacking one a year. And then, we'll do that. Ideally, I don't know. We'll see. I want to do it 8 times. We'll see how long Elijah goes along with this.
Yeah,
But even if we did it like 5 times, like that's a huge win.
it is.
So we'll house hack one a year because we can do 5% down. We'll do that as long as we can, being under the loan limits, and as long as she'll let us.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably what we'll do after that is still buy one a year, one primary a year, but we just won't rent out the house while we're living there. So I guess that'll be more of like the nomad type strategy.
Yeah.
Because it's nice having tenants here to help us pay for our mortgage, but at some point we will want to be like more comfortable, and I don't know, we'll start a family at some point and all that. So I think we might as well still take advantage of 5% down, but we can live comfortably and then we'll move out and rent it by the room or whatever.
Yeah.
So we'll do that for a while. But ideally, it looks like by year 6 to 8, we'll be getting enough cash flow to replace our expenses. So that's 40 grand a year is what I'm projecting for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and at that point, I can step back, she can step back, we could quit, something like that with our W-2s to free up some more time. And then we really want to get into apartment investing.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't really want to go the syndication route because I've been talking with some people at meetups about this, but I feel like, with syndication, you usually sell the property after like 5 to 7 years and you're like pretty contractually like obligated to do that.
Yeah.
I would hate to do that. As a buy and hold person, like I put in all this work to buy this property, stabilize it, raise the funds, all that. And then just to get rid of it and like restart,
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I mean, yeah, if you've cultivated this property to exactly where you want it and you have to sell it. And, my thing is, what if the market just is soft in 5 to 7 years? Like, I don't know the rules around that of how you can change that if there's a way to do that. But I mean, yeah, I would want the flexibility or the control at least
right.
to that aspect. So,
yeah. So I think what we'd want to do with that is just my focus right now is networking like on social and at, in-person meetups and stuff like that. And, ideally by that 6-year mark, we'll have met enough high net worth investors that we're friends with. And, I think it would be much better and we would have more control if we were to buy this, $5 million, $10 million, whatever apartment with 5 other people that we know, know, like, and trust.
mm-hmm.
And we're all on the same page as far as like, we're going to hold this thing, it's a cash cow, hold it forever and not be, beholden to, 100 LP investors like in a syndication. So yeah,
Right.
So that's kind of the plan. Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
No, I think that, I know we've chatted about this before, but I think that's a great plan. And I really like the fact that you guys are getting your feet wet just with these house hacks because you have 3 tenants right now. And when you move out, you're going to have 5 for this house and however many more for, whatever the bedroom situation is at your next house hack and so on and so forth. So you're able to, get experience with multiple tenants and juggling shared living spaces and all that, while you're accumulating all these properties. So you'll have systems down and you'll be able to apply that to the larger scale investment.
Yeah, I mean, we have to bring something to the table. So it'll, probably be management and then, equity that we can pull out, I guess, of our 6 to 8 house hacks at that point, which I imagine will be a lot of equity, fingers crossed.
Yeah. So, I mean, real quick, we're not going to fill out a spreadsheet right now. Just, are there any, you talked about what you're getting for rents, 800, and then you said 800 and 750 for the third one.
Exactly. Yep.
And then, you're probably estimating, I'm guessing 750 or so for the 2 bedrooms after you move out.
Yep. Yep.
Other than regular PITI, can you tell everyone a little bit about what your monthly expenses or yearly expenses for, the shared items, the internet, utilities? I imagine you're probably landscaping on your own, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I've been doing that for 2 days. Actually, my back is kind of hurting right now. So,
you're too young to be complaining about that.
Out of 2 days in the rain, the dirt turned to mud as I was moving it around, and so it got a lot heavier. Yeah. So as far as cost goes, I have a lot of them pulled up here. So as far as taxes go, as of acquisition, it was $999 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So, I assume that'll be reassessed at some point and likely go up. But regardless, this is our first property, so this is the only real estate taxes I've ever paid, but I hear it's cheap. So
it's very cheap. Yep.
Yeah. So yes, that's $999 a year. Our property insurance is $1,900 a year, like our homeowner's insurance.
Okay.
And so, so that was through USAA because her father is in the military. So I think we got a good rate on that because of that. We were with Progressive before that, or no, we were with Nationwide before that. And I think it was like $2,200 a year. So now it's $1,900.
Okay.
Our utilities so far with us 2 living down here and 1 tenant upstairs, it was $170 a month. Okay. So now that we have 2 more people coming, I'm sure it'll increase some, but probably not a ton. And as far as landscaping, we are actually paying for the yard to be mowed. So we're not doing that. And I had somebody mowing it through TaskRabbit, which was pretty nice. It's like an app where you can go in and find handymen, lawn care, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like Uber, or, there's just individuals on there offering their services. And anyway, that guy, I don't know, he went in the wind somewhere and I lost it. So we're paying like actual company for it now, but it's about the same rate. It was like $40 per mow. So okay. I don't know, that sounds good to us.
Yeah. And it's good for when you move out, you don't have to come up with a new system or anything. So
exactly. Yeah. I don't want to have to haul a mower back over to this house when we move in a year. So
definitely not.
Not for $40,
No.
And our internet 60 a month. And then, PMI. So we were 5% down and it was 142 a month is how much our mortgage, the insurance was for that. So that's about all in all, I think. Yeah.
Nice. Did Bill mention how long you had to wait before you could see if you could get your PMI dropped? Is there
I don't
seasoning
know
period for that?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a seasoning period. I mean, I know, naturally the loan will get paid down to an amount, after we have 20% equity or after you pay it down to like 80% LTV or something, to where it will fall off. But so we'll see how that goes. I don't know. That's a conversation I should have with him though, because I'll be happy to get rid of that. So
I mean, a free $140 back, in your pocket. And so well, very good. Yeah. Thanks so much for being so transparent and sharing all these numbers. I think that the strategy that you guys have is just amazing. I'm so excited to kind of keep track of your progress throughout the years, because I know you guys are just I think you're going to blow your goals out of the water, personally. So I'm really excited to hear that. Is there anything that you feel like I missed that you wanted to highlight as part of this investment, or?
No, I think that's the majority of everything.
Okay.
But no, I would love to come back in a year once we move out and actually go over actuals. I know we hear a lot about projections. It looks like you're going to make this much cash flow, but to go over like actuals, I think would be super helpful, and I'd be interested in doing so.
Yeah, absolutely. The invitation is there. So you tell us when you have that year's worth of data, we'll definitely have you back on. And, can you tell everyone where they can, reach out to you, get in contact with you, and we'll have this on the show notes as well. If anybody wants to get in touch, you're a new investor, you're in college and you're looking to do something similar, or, you're further ahead and just have some questions. If you reach out on Instagram, that's probably where you can best find me. And that's at my name, Miller, Miller, McSwain, MCSWAIN. And shoot me a DM on there and I'll get right back to you. Great. Well, thanks so much, Miller. appreciate you coming on and telling everyone your story, and we'll see you again soon.
Yep. Happy to do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.